Hello everyone, I'm Koyan and today we are going to learn about Chapter 3 Nutrition in Plants. This is actually in the Form 5 syllabus. So let's take a look at the question. Diagram 2 shows plant X and they want us to actually state the type of plant based on its nutritional adaptation. So based on this SPM syllabus, we only learn these three: carnivorous plant, epiphytic plant, and parasitic plant. So yeah, I actually rephrase it because the question, the way they ask is slightly, I would say not really suitable with the answer lah. Because if you want to explain nutritional adaptation, you normally write like it has a cup with nectar that traps the prey inside. Yeah, that's the nutritional adaptation. But this one, I think is more suitable to be asked the type of plant based on this special nutritional adaptation. So you guess what is the type of plant? So they got carnivorous, epiphytic, parasitic. So this one is makan makan mama nom 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 nom. So carnivorous, they eat meat. I mean, if we look at the definition of carnivorous animal, yeah, they are the one that eat the meat, right? And then parasitic plant is like you suck on other people, like you watch the parasite movie. Yeah, you benefit from other people, but other people kena harm. So this is actually a carnivorous plant because they are the one that eat. I mean, they basically trap the insect and they eat. So it is the carnivorous plant. And be careful for the spelling lah, because for biology, the spelling is really important. Okay, if you miss out one letter, then yeah, say bye bye to your marks. And now let's continue. Explain one importance of the type of nutritional adaptation that mentioned in 2A1. So what is the importance of it? Is basically why they do photosynthesis on its own, but why they still want to eat insect. Okay, so you try to think, what can you get from this insect? The nutrition you can get from this insect. You can actually get nitrogen from this insect. Okay? You actually get the nitrogen source from this insect. So why do you need nitrogen? Do you remember protein? Protein actually consists of this element, which is carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Maybe some got contain sulfur lah, but nitrogen is one of the important one. So as you learn the chapter 3 about the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, all the macronutrients, micronutrients, the nitrogen they really emphasize on the protein synthesis of plant. So after all I said, what am I trying to explain? I'm trying to explain that this trapped insect, right, they can supply the nitrogen to the plant. So this nitrogen will be used in the synthesis of protein. Why do we need protein? The main reason we need protein is actually for growth, right? Okay. That's why our parents always ask us to eat more, especially our grandparents. So, oh my god, I gonna busted that I'm using Google Meet. So yeah, but the reason why they can't just use photosynthesis on its own and absorbing minerals from the soil on its own is because normally you get nitrogen from a soil, but why do they still need to trap insects? It's because the soil lacks of nitrogen. So the answer is actually basically mentioning about the trapped insects supply nitrogen. That's why it is important lah, nitrogen to the plants. So you can emphasize what is the importance of nitrogen. Nitrogen is important for growth. or you can mention nitrogen is important for photosynthesis on the growth of the plant. So the reason why they want to trap all these insects is because they very young they live in a place. Carnivorous plants, they live at in a soil which lacks of nitrogen sources, or else they won't be having this nutritional adaptation. Whereas plant lacks of nitrogen sources. Alright, so basically this answers to the question right here, the importance. And then now let's continue this statement. Orchid plants are more suitable to be cultivated using coconut husk. Actually, this type of question, this coconut husk question has been coming up since very long time ago. I seen this question in KVSM, and yeah, even though it rarely, I can't really recall did it really mention in the textbook, but we still have to at least know what does the coconut husk do to this orchid plant. So this coconut husk, why is it so good? Okay, so the basically when you plant it in a coconut husk, the orchid plant, okay, I'm not really good at drawing. So yeah, this is the coconut husk. What can it do? It can actually keep the water. So in a better word to phrase this is retain the water for the orchid plant. Husk can retain water for orchid plant. Other than that, what can it actually do? It can also provide the aviation for respiration of the roots. Why? Because the oxygen can flow freely in the coconut husk. That's the reason why it can provide the aviation. The husk can provide aviation aviation for the respiration of root, because root they actually need oxygen for cellular respiration. And then yeah, basically the root needs cellular respiration to generate energy. Why do they need this energy? It's basically for the active transport of the mineral ions, active uptake of the mineral ions, because active transport require energy. And you can actually also mention about this situation whereby it can actually hold the husk for support. So the roots can hold it for as a support now. Husk for support. All right. So the retain water part, I would like to emphasize that other than retaining the water, it can also, because it has the ability to retain water, which means that it can absorb excessive water. So when you get to absorb excessive water, it will prevent the root from soaking and then rot. Yeah, because if you soak the root with excessive water for too long, it will eventually rot lah. So that's the reason why coconut husk is beneficial, suitable to be cultivated for orchid plant. Now let's move on to this Lionel paper. So name the type of plant P and Q based on their nutritional adaptation. So P is basically birdnest fern, and plant Q is the famous rafflesia. So plant P is epiphytic plant Q is parasitic plant. So state the adaptation of plant Q to obtain nutrients to survive. So this is actually how you explain nutritional adaptation. So how plant Q actually survive is they really need a host lah, honestly. So they have a very special root. You can actually know the specific name, which is Pastoria, but if you don't know the name, it's also fine. So it actually will penetrate the vascular tissue of the host. Why it penetrate the vascular tissue? So the reason why it penetrate the vascular tissue is because vascular tissue is where they transport the all the important nutrients, right? Like sucrose, water, uh, hormones, phytohormones, glucose, whatever lah. If not glucose, ignore the glucose part. Sucrose, they transported in form of sucrose. So yeah, has roots which can penetrate the vascular tissue of host. TIC plant, and then this one is parasitic plant. Now let's continue. Yeah, so basically plant Q, they can't do photosynthesis on its own. They completely rely on their host. So they straight away keep absorbing the nutrients from the host. So they have a root that penetrate the vascular tissue, which is the xylem phloem there. Because xylem phloem, they have this role on transporting water, mineral salts, sucrose, phytohormones, and now let's take a look at this question. The host tree that plant P grows on is dead. So explain the effect on the survival of plant P. So this is an epiphytic plant. So if the host die, oh no, can the plant P actually survive? So you try to think, what are the difference between them? Plant P, they can actually do photosynthesis on its own, but this one cannot do photosynthesis on its own. So if the host die, it still can do photosynthesis on its own to produce glucose and glucose is needed for energy for the most important process. Okay, so yeah, it still can survive basically because it still can photosynthesize on its own, means it can make its own food. So yeah, you can say what happens to plant P first, effect on the survival. So we have to emphasize what happens to the survival. You don't have to just straight away enter to the point, straight away explain. You state what happens to the survival. Yes, it will continue to survive. Plant P continues to live. So this is the first mark. You can get it easily. But if you guess it wrongly, then yeah, no choice lah, okay? So when it continues to live, how can you explain? Because it can make its own food as it can, or you can explain in another way, it can still carry out photosynthesis. All right. Now let's continue. Okay, if this one is talking about this rafflesia, actually the survival of the rafflesia will, I mean the effect of the survival means the rafflesia plant will actually die because rafflesia plant cannot carry out photosynthesis on its own, means it can't make its own food. So when the host die, they don't have, they can't, are not able to get the nutrients from the specific host lah. Unless they really very lucky got nearby got another host, then yeah. But most probably you die lah. Okay, yeah, if the host is dead. So let's take a look at this question. They are asking us, I mean, they are studying the effect of nutrition nutrient deficiency on growth of bean seedling. So this one doesn't have phosphorus. And explain the observation of the experiment after 7 days. I know this topic is where students struggle on because it's basically memorizing all the way. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, so many things to memorize, right? But honestly, what I can say, like, if you really memang tak boleh memorize so many stuff, you just focus on these three main macronutrients: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Not NSK, NPK, okay? Not the NSK, okay. So NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So for nitrogen, right, what most important is, it is very important for the protein synthesis of protein. And it's also important for the chlorophyll formation. So if don't have nitrogen, you can try to predict what happened. You cannot undergo protein synthesis, means it will be stunted growth. Not cannot undergo lah, but lesser lah. And then less chlorophyll formation. Okay, if lack of nitrogen, then yeah, less formation of chlorophyll. So the leaf will become, it will become yellowish lah, which is chlorosis of leaf. What about this phosphorus? So phosphorus is actually really important for the root growth. Okay, and for potassium is basically all about the overall health of the plant lah. Yeah, so overall health, overall of the plant. Yeah, so phosphorus, right? Other than root growth, you can actually mention about this phospholipid. So yeah, but the most main thing is the root growth lah. Phosphorus is very important for root growth. So what happened without phosphorus means root growth is stunted, no? Yeah, you just write it in the opposite way. Yeah. And then other than that, if you manage to remember a lot, then yeah, you can explain because phosphorus is needed for healthy root growth. And then you can also mention, the formation of dark green dull colored leaf. You can just mention one of them, you don't have to memorize the whole thing. Or you can write there will be spot on the leaf, which is quite red or purple spot. Okay, this is the first point, and then this is the explanation. And second point, and then the third point right here, you can actually mention about the ATP cannot be synthesized or nucleic acid. If you manage to think of it lah, cannot, because I'm giving you the most complete answer. I mean, the one that has the complete version. And last but not least, phospholipid. Yeah, phosphorus is actually important for the formation of phospholipid. Phospholipid. But you cannot write, oh, it is important for formation of phospholipid in plasma membrane. No, you have to mention the explanation of observation without phosphorus. So yeah, lol. Okay, in plasma membrane. So you have to mention in the opposite way, which is cannot be formed. cannot be formed. Alright, so you need to at least know what is the importance of NPK and then what happens when there are deficit on the specific nutrients. You must read out this NPK, this macronutrient. These three are the most important lah. If you really memang cannot remember the other all of them. And now let's take a look at this paper, Pahang 2023. Diagram 5.1 show three types of plant, also the same thing. But this is a Venus fly trap. Yeah, fly trap. So it traps the fly. And the plant S one, then you can look at the plant P one. So for this, alright, so let's take a look at plant R. So R is basically they eat others. So no, it's a carnivorous plant. Carnivorous plant. And plant T is a bird nest fern. So it is a epiphytic plant. So what about plant S? So since plant R is a carnivorous plant, plant T is epiphytic plant, so it's obviously known that this plant should be a parasitic plant. So, but I understand we actually didn't learn this example of parasitic plant because we only know that there are the rafflesia. Okay, so for this one, I hope you can guess lah for this part because yeah, you actually didn't really learn about it. But yeah, they want us to explain how plants obtain water and mineral salt to survive. Since this one is epiphytic and another one is carnivorous, so supposedly this one is supposed to be yeah, parasitic plant. So plant S is a parasitic plant. So how does it obtain water to survive? So it basically has this has roots that yeah, it's basically the same thing like just now. Okay, wait. So it basically has the roots that can penetrate on the stem, I mean on the vascular tissue of the host, not stem, sorry. So yeah, they basically just penetrate to it to obtain water and mineral salts. Absorb the water and mineral salts. So right now they want us to, yeah, this one is showing the plant T and plant U. So plant T is just an innocent flowering plant, and then plant U is basically the parasitic plant. So they want us to discuss the differences of nutritional adaptation in both plant T and plant U. So this is basically wanting you to differentiate between them. So plant T is just innocent flowering plant that doesn't grow on the host. I mean that doesn't rely on the host. So means that it can actually make its own food through photosynthesis. So if it can undergo photosynthesis, it surely have a chlorophyll. So this one has a chlorophyll, while plant U does not have chlorophyll. And I want to emphasize that whenever they want you to differentiate, you must use wow. This one has blah blah. Wow, that one has blah blah. But you also have to differentiate at the same aspect lah. This one you are talking about chlorophyll, then you differentiate between the another one that doesn't have chlorophyll. And then plant T can produce its own food, or you can carry out photosynthesis. use its own food while plant U obtain nutrient from host. Another point is basically talking about the photosynthesis. So photosynthesis and making own food, you can differentiate into 2 points. I mean separate into 2 points. Can carry out photosynthesis while plant U does not carry out photosynthesis. So when you are doing this type of differentiate differences, you must use while or maybe whereas lah. Yeah. Alright, now let's move on to the next question. Right here is more of a K-but question asking you to explain the effect if there is no nectar production on the carnivorous plant. So this pitcher plant, they actually they secrete this nectar. So this nectar, they actually want to attract. They want to attract the insect. So you can take a look as another example like flowering plant. Why do they have a nectar? Because they need insect to help to transfer the pollen grain from one plant to another, cross-pollination or maybe self-pollination. But yeah, basically the reason why flowering plant have nectar is basically need this insect to act as a pollinating agent to transfer the pollen grain. But for this one, why do they need nectar? They actually want to just attract them and trap them, then eat them. Okay, another purpose. So this nectar, what happens if there is no nectar? So just now I explained like if there is nectar, they will attract, they will trap, and then they will basically eat them lah. So what is the effect? Then you have to mention in an opposite way. So there is no, or you can write less lah. Less, or you can write it as no. Insects trapped by pitcher plant. Or you can write carnivorous plant if you don't know what plant is this. So less, or you can say no, it depends. Okay. But this one is no nectar, so you can write it as no. But if you are unsure, maybe there is a possibility that insect will enter. Okay, you gonna trap also. So you can also write less if you want to be safe. Digested by digestive juice, or you can write enzyme. So when there is like no insect or less insect digested, means the nitrogen, the nutrient obtained will be less, right? So less nitrogen supply to pitcher plant. So when there's a less nitrogen supply means less nitrogen used for protein synthesis. Less protein synthesis leads to lower growth rate. So this is the effect if there is no nectar production on the carnivorous plant. That's the reason why they need to have this adaptation to trap insect because they live in a zone in the soil where is a less lack of nitrogen supply. So in order to increase their growth rate, they are adapted to have this ability adaptation. So the nectar is really important to trap the insect. Now let's take a look at this one. State the type of plant L and M based on their nutritional adaptation. So yeah, I know this picture a bit. Okay, so this L is basically a parasitic plant. It's a rafflesia. And meanwhile for plant M, yeah, I know the picture a bit Yeah. So you can see there's a fly right there, and then you get trapped soon, right? So it is basically a carnivorous plant. What about K? K is actually they grow on the holes right there, but in a different way lah, okay? They want to obtain more sunlight, that's why they grow at the higher part, not at the lower part. So this one is actually a bird nest fern, which is the epiphytic plant. And give one example of plant that has same nutritional adaptation as plant K. Uh-huh. So you can write orchid. Yeah, this one orchids. Orchid plant. And now let's take a look. One characteristic of plant L. So plant L is basically this Rafflesia, which is the parasitic plant. So they basically always live with the host. Or you can write that it has roots to absorb nutrients from hosts. And another feature of this plant, another characteristic is that the reason why they always rely on hosts is because they can't produce food on its own, means it can't carry out photosynthesis, unable to carry out photosynthesis. So plant M, it lives in a soil that has a low source of nitrogen. Explain how plant M obtain its source of nitrogen. So like just now, what I mentioned, it will secrete a nectar. Why it wants to secrete nectar? Because they want to trap the insect insect and has cups. This is called cups lah, to trap insects. And then after trapping it, what do? They will has digestive enzyme, or you can write it as juice enzymes to break down the insects to obtain the nutrient. So yeah, that's all for this chapter where you have to emphasize more on the nutritional adaptation of the plant. And then yeah, basically know these three plants are epiphytic plant, parasitic plant, and carnivorous plant. And the nutrient needed for seedling growth, maybe you can read through it, NPK. So yeah, that's all for today. And I will see you in the next video. So I will actually post the Google Drive link below. So you can actually check out the description part where I will share out this whole set of compiled SPM 2023 trial paper questions. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye bye.